Are you worried about your UK visa expiring soon? Not sure if you can extend it? What is your next steps that you should take? Stay in tune, because in this video, I'll be breaking down everything you need to know about extending your stay in the UK, from the types of visas you can extend, step-by-step guidance about the application process. I've got you covered. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, my name is Falguni Vaiparik. I'm an immigration solicitor and my company name is The Smart Move to UK. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is extending your stay in the UK. If you currently hold a visas, not all visas can be extended or renewed, so it's essential to know your options. Let's dive right into it. First, let's talk about the visas that cannot be extended. This includes the UK graduate visas. If you've been as a student and then you've got about 2 years of a UK graduate visas, around the time when that visa is expiring, there's no room for an extension. But I'll come to the point where I tell you what can you do if your visa for UK graduate is expiring. Is there other options for you available or not? The next visa that cannot be extended is the youth mobility visas, and the next one is the startup visas. Additionally, if you hold a visa that is now closed to the new applicants, like your UK investor visas, you can still apply for an extension or an indefinite leave to remain. So it doesn't matter that that category is abolished, those applications are no longer in existence, but you are in country, you are already in the UK, and if you're due for your extensions or if you're due for your indefinite leave to remain in UK, you can very well apply for those applications within the UK. If you need the eligibility criteria, then you will qualify for these extensions or the ILR applications for those category of visas, like the investor visas, which we just spoke about. If your visas cannot be extended, you might consider switching to different type of visas. This is exactly what I was referring to a minute back when we said that, when you reach to the end of your graduate visas and you're thinking, because the visa is expiring, what can you do? You can switch. You can switch to a skilled worker visas if you have a job offer from an approved employer. However, remember that if you hold a UK visitor visas, you cannot switch to a different visas from within the UK. So there are certain category of visas which will absolutely not allow you switch over for whatsoever reasons. However, the UK visitor visas can be extended. So whilst you're in UK on a visit visas and there's kind of an emergency, or you have got stuck there and you cannot leave within the expiry date of your visas, then you can extend, but you cannot switch. So for instance, you entered in as a visitor and you want to switch to a skilled worker, there's no application, it's not a valid application primarily. Or if you entered in as a visitor, you want to switch as a student, getting married, finding a job, you can't switch. You have to come back to your home country and make a fresh application. You will need to return to your home country and submit a new application forms under circumstances. Now, let's go over to some specific visa types and their extension process. So you can extend the Tier 2 skilled worker visas, spouse visas, you can extend. UK healthcare workers are a category which you can have an extension application. ICT, which is an intra-company transfer visas, you can ask for an extension there. Tier 1 entrepreneur visa extensions, as I just mentioned, you can also extend a visitor visas, but you need to do a consultation. You need to be sure about your extension application, so evaluate properly before you make an application for your stay as a visitor in the UK. Student visa extension, this is again a scenario based where sometimes students are not able to complete courses, or there's been a challenge in terms of getting through with the last lap of the course, or any exceptional circumstances where you need an extension. You can do that for students. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list. And if you really need an assistance, you need to contact the immigration lawyer firm like ours. You can call us on +91 981 270002, or you can email us at info@smartmovetouk.com. You must apply for your UK visa extension before your current visa expires, which is also known as your further leave to remain application. So you need to be very mindful on the end date of your visas. Ideally, as a good practice, we kind of touch base and evaluate the merits of the application a year before your visa is expiring, and that gives you an idea whether you meet the requirements. If there are any gaps, you get time to bridge the gaps, and if it can be worked out, you can prepare yourself. You should start doing your application at least 6 months before your visa expires, because most of the time the applicants are working, they have commitments, they have social commitments. It's a bit hard to kind of get pressed for time and try to do the extension application. So it's better to start a bit in advance. You can apply for an extension 3 months before your visa expires, but there are fine prints that you need to first read before do you want to do it that way or not. The UK visa expiry rule states that your application must be received by the UK Visas and Immigration, which is the UKVI, before your visa expires. So if you apply after your visa expires, you may be considered as an overstayer, which can negatively impact your application. So that's where you have to be extremely careful. You need to have that date right up over there to say when is your visa expiring. So you focused on the renewal part and you act timely before that expiry happens. So now coming to extending your visas, how do you extend or renew your visas in the UK? The general steps that we recommend is ensure all preparations are complete, such as securing a new certificate of sponsorship in case you're extending your work visas. In case you're extending your visa as a student, make sure you have a certificate of acceptance for your studies for student visas. The next step would be is to complete the online forms which are there for renewal. So make sure you pick up the right categories, the right forms which are relevant to your particular case, and complete it. The applications. You pay all the required fees, including the visa extension fees, the health surcharge fees. The next step is to book and attend an appointment at your nearest UKVA CAS office for your identity verification and biometric. Provide all requested documents to support your applications. You can expect the decision in a stipulated time. So all the categories, there's a published timelines by which you will receive your outcomes. You can also expedite your outcomes by paying priority. So there's priority services which are optional depending upon how soon do you want the outcomes to be received. Sometimes in a normal processing as well, the stipulated time that they have published, you may receive an outcome little sooner than what they have stated on their site, or sometimes it may just take way beyond the published timelines as well. So it really depends on how busy their offices are during the time when you've submitted your application. So for instance, if it's like a Christmas break, then you need to factor in that there will be a time off during which they would not be available to make a decision. So you need to find out the working days where the offices are operational, and that's how you can estimate the timelines there. In case you miss the deadline for your visa extension, it will be a panic situation, but just in case you miss the deadline for your visa extension, it may still be possible to apply within 14 days or under the 14 days, unless you have a very good reason, then you can make that application there. So here you really need to provide a strong evidence of exceptional circumstances. This could be anything. It could be an emergency medical treatment, or maybe something unfortunate that has happened in the family, or there has to be an exceptional circumstances to explain on why the extension application has not been submitted before the expiry of the visas. And you also have to remember that from here it is discretionary for an assessing officer to accept, and you cannot ask to evaluate the application as a matter of right. So it's very discretionary from here. If your visa extension application, again, another dimension to it. So we've seen so far on which are the categories that you can apply extensions, which are the categories you cannot, what are the steps that you have to take to make a valid applications, and assuming that we've done everything on time, and then we're waiting for an outcome. But if the outcome is not favorable, which means that you've been refused your visas, what are your then options? So in case you've been refused visas, one of the things you can do is submit a fresh application. Now, when I say submit a fresh application, what I want to say is you need to be within time. So if you're really cutting fine and you kind of have applied on the last day of your visa expiry, and by the time you got your decision, your visa has already expired, then that will be a tricky situation. That's where it's not a good idea. But if you kind of had a sufficient time to do your extension, you are still having a valid right to remain in the UK, and you can apply for your fresh application. Alternatively, you can apply for a different type of visas. So for example, you may not have qualified under that category, but you have another category that you qualify into. You can apply again. It's important that you still have valid visas to apply for an application which is under a different category. You can also appeal if you have human rights protection or humanitarian grounds that are being affected by virtue of this refusal. It's important to get an assessment done to find out if it is sort of, you can appeal under those sort of grounds. Under some categories, you can't really appeal. So if those categories for the visas that you've applied does not have an appeal right, then you have to request for an administrative review. You can peruse the refusal notice, you can go through the content there. If you think that's genuinely a mistake by UKVI, then you can file for a judicial review if you think that the refusal is unlawful. In all these circumstances, I highly recommend to speak to a legal advisors, to speak to professionals who are specialized in advising in UK immigration and nationality laws to understand the best route forward for your situation. And I hope that this whole conversation has been of help, and you are now able to be a bit more confident about your UK visa extension. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped to clarify how to extend your stay in the UK. If you have any questions or need any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more such updates. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.